All right, this is If My People, Bible reading, part 79. We're in the book of Deuteronomy. And so we finished Exodus, which is the beginning of Exodus is all about the covenant. The covenant, not the 613 commands of Torah. We're going through all those 613 commands now. That's not what Yahweh ever wanted for his people. He wanted a nation of priests, plural. He was going to have it on that mountain. That was before Moses came down with those 10 commandments. And just remember, it took 10 trips going up and down. When you count it, 10 trips before it finally ended. And and then Moses sat down with the people and started handing out the statutes and the ordinances and everything else that is hard to do. Very, very hard to do. And so when we get into Leviticus, basically a lot of that information there at Leviticus about how things are going to be is not what the future is about, not even close. It's it's not close because Leviticus is what the Levites are going to do. And in the future now, because of what happened with the sin and the golden calf and all that in the wilderness at the first Exodus, it's not going to happen at the second Exodus coming up. That's what we have the hope for. We don't have, and we understand that rapture, pre-tribulation, no matter what happens in this world, the Christians are going to be swooped up through the air and turned into supernatural beings and never touched. Although throughout the entire word, including while Yeshua's time on earth, he gave you warning over and over and over again about the adversary, Hasatan, and what he will have and have his way before Yeshua returns. And Deuteronomy now is a second reading of the law. That's what Deuteronomy means. The theme of Deuteronomy, when you read it word for word, which we want you to do, word for word, beginning from the beginning to the end of it, it's going to surprise you. Why? Because it comes out like this. You don't hear this in the Orthodox Judaism synagogues. You don't hear this in the Christian churches anywhere. The theme of Deuteronomy is love. 22 times I counted it. 22 times love and obey. Not love. Love and obey. Hear and obey me. And that's why we call this. That's why we're doing this series. And that's why we wrote a book about if my people who would hear and obey. It's right there at the front end of our book. It was so important. So that's how Deuteronomy starts. And that's how it ends. Matter of fact, there's 8 orientations, or orations, let me give it that way, 8 orations given, starting in chapter 1:6 through 4:40. Second is chapter 4:44 through 26, and so forth, all the way up to 8. That's the key to understanding Deuteronomy. So as we go through Deuteronomy, we're going to notice some things that are kind of important. There's repetition and interpretation of what you've already heard. You're going to hear it again. There's religious and national regulations they need to follow. Yahweh's past dealings are insurance for the future. Yahweh's understanding and making it clear that he knows you. He knows them. He knows how quickly they fall into sin. Yahweh sent Israel to Egypt, and Yahweh brought them out. Promised land, not like Egypt. It's different, and it's not going to be run the way it is in Egypt. Egypt representing Western style understanding. Like today, the Western world is hundreds of nations, not just Egypt. Okay, we understand that, don't we? There's going to be continuance of diet, very, very important. We're going to get into that again and again. Here's what we basically say, because people love to argue. Oh, but if you cook this at a certain temperature, and nobody but the people in the Middle East and the Far East, especially the Far East, eat strange bugs. And as long as you deep fat fry them and put them in lots of sugar and candy and oils and butter and all that stuff, tastes good, doesn't it? My wife and I live also in the South. We have a small home down there on the ocean, And the people, the lifestyle in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, is a wonderful lifestyle. The eating habits of the people are horrendous. I worked there in the medical industry for years, and the people that come rolling in the door, ages from 40 on, heart attack, stroke, mostly caused by eating habits. Sugar, butter, deep fat fried. And the key word is everything. And the taste of it is quite good. A piece of a door frame from the house would be pretty good if it was deep fat fried in sugar and butter. Understand? Um, there are three main feasts. They are to follow this, and they are to stick to it. Is a never-ending commandment, and that means the future too for you in the millennium coming up. Um, there's various sundry laws. Chapter 17, the priests and the prophets, what they're supposed to do. They're going to move into a land and have a priest in the land. We currently have, you're a priest in your family. So the man, if it's a marriage, has a family, is the priest in the family and responsible for that. And the wife, her responsibility is just as important, if not even more important than other things, as a support help meet. And so in the future, in the millennium, uh, it will return back to the Levites will have a role, but they're going to have a very limited role. They work only with Yahweh in his sanctuary oblation area, which is located in Ezekiel's temple vision north of Jerusalem. Not even Jerusalem is a site where all the pilgrims come to, and where the healing waters flow down to from the mountain, which is um, north of Jerusalem. So do the people in the millennium all go and walk on the holy land of the oblation area where Yeshua walks and where David, risen from his resurrection, is he there? And if he's there, is he in charge of many things? Well, it makes pretty good hints that there's a lot of people in charge. 144,000 priests. Those priests do not work in the sanctuary, do not work in the oblation area. The Levites do that. They have their land, and the 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe are the priests for the entire world of all those who hear and obey. And so, with that in mind, this is just a repeat of more detail of everything that you've read up to and so far. So there's even how to do war. Yahweh says this, you hear and obey me. You don't have to go out there and do all these slaughters and so forth. He's going to do it. So you mean to tell me Christians are freaking out? Oh, you mean Yeshua is going to be responsible for a lot of death of people? He's not saving the whole. Jesus loved the whole world. Yes, he loves the whole world and all those who hear and obey him. It is conditional. It is conditional. And now, is it conditional? It still is. It's not unconditional. We are not, we're not under the law anymore. No. Where did that come from? As we've gone through at least 20 or 30 times here, no. We are conditional. We must hear and obey Yeshua, and we get to the Father through Yeshua. So the whole thing is, as Yeshua points out over and over again, he talks about his Father. He wants you to have a relationship with his Father. And how do you have a relationship? You have a relationship with him. So many of these false religions out there just twist and people who say these things intentionally, I don't care what their title is, they are in big trouble. Big trouble. You can't attack all these people. There's many more of them out there than there is of us. So there's even laws regulating domestic personal relationships, building codes, divorce, because Yahweh knows what these people are about to do in the promised land. They're kind of going right back as a dog goes back to his own vomit. In Egypt, they're going to do some of the same stuff, and there's going to be, once again, a separation of the peoples. There's going to be a remnant that comes out of that. These people don't understand that at times, but they're told, they're warned. Everyone's warned the same, and they're all responsible for each other. So it even mentions in chapter 26 about first fruits. Yeshua was the first fruits. the 144,000 of the first fruits. Well, what about the millions and millions of people, the sea of glass, which means in Revelation, the hundreds of millions of people out there that are going to be coming into the city? Yeah, they're called sheep, and they are guests at the wedding. They are not the bride. In the millennium is not the final heaven. In the earthly millennium, they are guests. So when you go to a wedding and you have the maid of honor and the best man and all these people stand up there and, okay, who's out in the audience? Are they all bridesmaids? No. So you have a lot more. If you fill a church up with 500 guests and you have a bride, which is the 144,000, Yeshua being the groom, the first fruit who choose his bride. He chose his bride. Ooh, gotta get that right. Doesn't it make any sense of understanding? It should be totally simple. So that's who the guests are, because people skim over that when they read the book. I'm the bride of Yeshua. You are. Well, do you hear and obey today? 99% of you in the churches, you don't. You just say you do. You don't. Oh, I love Jesus, so I love Jesus. If you love me, hear and obey. Feed my sheep. There's action. There's a verb. It's a verb action. It means to do something, and all of that. So, let's see. I'm at 11. I'm doing pretty good here. I still got 11 minutes, 53 seconds. I just want you to get that clear. It confuses so many people, because no matter what I say, you're going to turn around and go listen to somebody else and say, well, Bruce, he said this. Well, you know what? You're going to get everything I say, everything that you've read in the Word, read it exactly like a book. I'm not telling you to only read this or only read that. Read the whole thing like a book. Take your time. Listen to what I'm saying and rightfully divide my word up and test everything. Trust nothing. You've got to test everything these days. So we get into chapters 27 through 30 regarding the future in the land, the blessing and the curses. Once again, if you get into the land, there's a blessing and a curse. That's what happens in Deuteronomy. There's lots of blessing and curses. They come up. You'll read it because it's coming up. And the next 20 books after that, they're all there. Then when the millennium comes, are there blessings and curses? Are there curses when Yeshua is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, walking on this earth? Is there curses? Yeah. Yeah, okay. If you don't hear and obey and you don't follow my appointed times, and you keep playing Christmas and Santa Claus and Easter bunnies and all the stuff you know is not true, and you keep doing it, and you don't do my appointed times, you don't come to the feast, you don't make your offerings, so that my Levites who do not have to work out in the land, they can stay on their land and take care of the sanctuary. That's why there's continuing bringing in offerings and peace offerings and love offerings, and all these other offerings will continue in the millennium. Well, what also will continue? If you don't do and you don't hear and obey, you won't eat. There'll be pestilence, there'll be famine, there'll be no rain for you. There's going to be problems. And it's an iron scepter rule. That's what Yeshua says. Iron scepter rule. So there's another huge, gigantic warning. At the very end is the requiem to Moses. And when we get back with you in part 80, we will continue with Deuteronomy. We'll be giving you the big objective outline there so you understand that. We'll see you then. Peace.